Johannah Clark Leach and Victoria West Hennedy have co-authored Created with Purpose, and they join us now to go deeper into that purpose. So Johannah and Victoria, welcome to Real Life 360. It's so wonderful to have you both here to really dig into this topic about purpose. And so it's very obvious you are young women ministering to many other young adults.
Yeah.
Have you found that in that age, those decades of the 20s, that women really are still searching for their purpose?
Yeah, we were just actually talking about that yesterday, about how different we feel approaching 30 than we did when we were 22, 23. And really the transformation you go through and the different things. And like we say in the book, it's all part of your testimony. It's all part of your story and your growing pains. And just the thing is, Johannah always reminds me, and she's great about that, is how's your relationship with God? Start there. And that really, from there, go on into how's your other relationships in your life and how's your relationship with yourself. But always your relationship with God first is the key.
So, you know, the early 20s might be discovering who they are in Christ, but also maybe the early 40s are discovering who they are in Christ, or maybe you're 50, or maybe you're 15. Where do they start? How do I discover who I am in Christ?
Yeah, well, for me, God spoke to me with dreams. And so he'll talk to you in all different ways, but you have to listen.
Yes.
Yeah, and you have to, just posture yourself to, you know, wake up with that intentional purpose of, okay, why am I doing today? What does today look like? What do I have to offer? And I think for me, I had dreams, and I also had prophetic words, but with dance, that was something that I kind of knew my whole life I would somehow be involved in, but I didn't know that I would be a director of a dance school. And thank God I didn't know, because, you know, as you step into your calling and your destiny, each day something, you know, if I would see everything that I would go through in 8 years, I don't know that I would take the step.
Exactly.
But I think, you know, and I was very encouraged by my family, and continue to be encouraged by my husband and my friends, just to, you know, take it one day at a time. You know.
So you grew up in a home where you had people intentionally speaking into your life about the way that God looks at you. Victoria, did you have that? And if not, how did you have that?
I did have that, but I don't know that it was in the same way that Johannah had it.
Okay.
I think that's why one of the reasons I've always admired her is because she brought that to the table. And you know, one of the things that I heard from God about when writing this book, we really took our time and prayed about it, was, you know, things happen along the way in life, along the journey. And I talk about that, you know, you're not necessarily going to wake up tomorrow and have everything revealed to you and everything laid out that you've ever wanted. You kind of have to just trust in God and take that first step. And like Johannah said, there's going to be ups and downs, and you might not know what the years are going to look like, but you just have to trust in Him, have faith in Him that He is always faithful.
So how do we, now we found our purpose and what we're supposed to do, how can we live that out with grace? How can we live this purpose, grace-filled life out?
That's a hard one, I think, because things happen on a day-to-day basis that really get under our skin. Or
like what? Tell us something. What gets under your skin?
You know, when you work in a service industry, I think sometimes people don't always agree with what you're doing, or maybe they're having a bad day and it's being taken out on you in anything you do. You know, that could happen at the stoplight down the street.
I heard it said that people can bump into your happy. Like you start the day off so well, and then they bump into your happy.
And nobody allowed to bump into our happy.
One of the things I think Johannah's great at, and that I've learned to be great at too, is to just not take things so personally.
That's good.
Everyone has their own stuff, they've got their own story, and you don't necessarily know what they're dealing with, but if we can understand people on a deeper level, what's driving them, where are they coming from, and how can I respond with God's grace? I really do think you can maintain your happy in that way.
I love that.
And a story that actually my father shared, we wrote it in the book, because he was saying, just through running a dance school, you do encounter different personalities, and you're constantly
Dance
trying.
moms, maybe?
Yeah, you're just constantly trying to assess it, and I'm the type of person who's like, okay, well, what can I improve? What, you know, what can I take a hold of? And then what can I let go because it's not my issue in a sense. But I was having a hard time, and my parents called me over during like a lunch hour, and they said, you know, my dad also went through this. Someone would put him down on the radio, and he said, you know, he had a friend who was always put down, and he would have people come to his conferences with picket signs and just very negative. And he had this man went to bed and he had a dream or a vision, and he saw this statue revealed, and he was like, whoa, this statue is beautiful. Like, who made this? And he said, everybody who has a picket sign made this statue. And he was saying how the people who may make you think more and work like to choose your words carefully are making me that beautiful person, if you look at it that way.
That's right. So have you ever have you ever had those thoughts that I can't do this, I'm gonna just give it all up? And so how do you persevere?
Well, God is obviously number one.
Right.
My husband, number two, you know, he's definitely helped me, your family, but it ultimately comes with, do you love what you're doing? And let's just take a moment and write down why we're doing what we're doing, and the joys and the stories. And maybe if you journal, you read back on those moments, you know, and you're reminded it is worth it. Or sometimes I just go down to the studio and I'm able to teach the 3-year-olds, and I'm like, oh, this is why it's okay. It's worth all the other things, you know. Focus on the positive.
Could you ladies, in 20 seconds each, tell me how to wake up the purpose in a friend watching right now?
Yeah, so I would say to go ahead and really work on your relationship with God first. Focus on how he sees you. Write it down if you have to. Highlight the lies that you don't believe. Why don't you believe them? Because sometimes I think it's easier to kind of get lazy with those lies and just start to pile them on and get down. Break that off. And once you can break that off and you can step out in faith, I think you can more clearly see that path to walk out your destiny.
Yeah, I echo everything she said. Is definitely aligning your heart with God, seeing how he sees you, and taking one step at a time, taking the morning, you know, taking the afternoon, taking the evening, and reflecting on that day and being thankful. That's the number one thing I do at night. Thank you for this, and thank you for that, and thank you for this.
You know, I would just say be encouraged. Sometimes you'll feel like you're taking 16 steps back for every one step forward. But you're moving forward, and you're going to get there with God's help.
So good. It's a new year. It's a fresh start. You can rediscover and rekindle that purpose in you. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having us.
Dawn and Terry will be joining with us to respond to the God moments throughout real life. But first, here's some ways to connect with us on social media. We love it.